You know, I thought of a great metaphor uh, for what I was feeling. And, I'm just going off the top of my head here. I didn't write anything down. I never do. I mean, I might write down a topic that I want to discuss or something within that topic I want to say, and I might write it down so I don't forget it. But for the most part, I go right off the top of my head and from my heart. And I want to discuss the walk. You know, the wok goes down in the family. They never throw away the wok. They barely clean it. They wipe it clean. And the belief about the wok is it gets better over time. The food that's cooked out of it gets better over time. It captures all the past meals cooked in it and brings it forward into the current meal being cooked in it. You know, and as a metaphor, that's a story of your life, because you don't want to erase your past. You don't want to wipe the slate clean or change the wok. You want to honor the wok, honor the past like they do. And it only makes your future better, has more flavor, has more authenticity to it. Uh, it's it should be cherished and not despised. Uh, you know, a lot of people want to start with a clean slate and forget the past and move on to the future. And they might want to do that, but it's kind of impossible anyway because you take yourself with you. How many, I know my experience with that, Alcoholics Anonymous and just addicts in general, uh, you know, they move to another state, another city, and they think it's going to solve their alcohol problem. It's like, oh no, because I live in eh, California or Las Vegas, even a better place for an alcoholic. You know, uh, they're not going to have any problems now because they're from New York. You know, all the connections, all the people that cause their problems because it's never their fault. It's always everybody else's fault. Um, they left them behind. They moved to a new city. They don't know anybody in this new city, so they can't so quickly go back to the substances they were doing in New York or wherever they're from. And, eventually they do go back to their substances. They do find another bar that accepts them or a girlfriend that does the same thing as the girlfriend did in New York, with a different accent, you know, or a different address, but everything's the same, you know. So, they. But the point is, no matter how far, no matter where you go, you take yourself with you, and you take the flavor, like the wok, with you, and you bring it into your new relationship. You bring it into your new city, your new job. A leopard doesn't change his spots, so wherever he goes, those spots follow him. And he could say he's not a leopard all he wants. He could act like something else, but everybody knows he's a leopard, and he looks kind of foolish doing those things and denying those things. Uh, and like a narcissist will deny that he's a narcissist, and they'll never admit they're a narcissist, no matter how you pose the question or go at the question. The answer is never going to be, I'm a narcissist. you know, and they might even go as far as to say, I had someone say to me, yeah, my social worker said my therapist said I'm a narcissist. And that in its own way is not admitting that he thinks he's a narcissist. His therapist thinks he's a narcissist. So that means the therapist could be wrong, which they weren't. But and they didn't even still like being called a narcissist, even though their therapist had diagnosed them as a narcissist. They didn't like that. Yeah, and it's just something they don't do. It's just like they have fake empathy, pseudo empathy, but not really real empathy. And they have empathy when it suits them to get what they want and how they can use it to manipulate you. I mean, a lot of times narcissists will throw in, because they learn, they know, they're aware, and they're not totally oblivious. They know if they throw in a few lines here and there, like, "Oh, don't you, I feel so sorry for that person," or uh, some kind of form of empathy. They'll throw it out there just to muddy the water. And if you are on the track of pinning them down as a narcissist, they throw that out, and it kind of like acts like a countermeasure on a plane when they have a missile coming after them, and they drop a countermeasure, and the missile goes after the countermeasure instead and blows up instead of blowing up the plane. So act faking empathy is just a countermeasure to take you off their trail, you know. And look, a lot of what I say on these videos, and most of what I'm trying to do with these videos, is direct you on your own path. Don't go after narcissists. Don't, it's funny. A lot of these videos I see on YouTube, they're like, uh, uh, people think you're the most powerful. They say all these grandiose things about you, and they're just trying to get you to click the video, and they want you to keep you to stay watching the video because that counts too, But they're lying. They're not telling you anything. They're just feeding your ego. They're feeding your ego. If you have that kind of ego that needs to be fed, then you'll find yourself watching those kinds of things, and it's just, you know, I have my own path, and a lot of what I share on these videos is my own path, and I think you want me to say do A, B, and it'll get you to C, and it just doesn't work that way. You know, it's just like the wok again. My family wok will make food taste a certain way, but the family down the block, their wok isn't going to do the same thing as my wok. Each wok is unique to itself, and the food that comes out of it is unique to the wok. And that's why I can't give you A plus B equals C, because my B and my A is different than yours. Uh, and then, of course, the C is going to be different. But that's not saying you shouldn't try A and B or find your own A and B to get to C. Uh, it just, the message is to not give up. The message is to not follow other people. You know, the buffalo, when the Indians hunted buffalo, they would run them off a cliff. They'd take the herd and they would get the herd running and they would steer them off a cliff and they would die. Very easy way to kill a lot of buffalo and not get hurt yourself doing it. But that's the point. You don't want to follow the herd. You want to do things on your own. Make up your own mind. And, and a lot of that is difficult for you because you're a buffalo, because you do follow the herd, because you would go off that cliff left to your own devices. And it's hard to be the one that decides to go the other way. Uh, that's why there's only one that goes the other way, where the whole herd goes off the cliff. And I guess I'm trying to save that one from going off the cliff. Uh, I want to see them succeed. I want them to make another herd. Uh, but it's just that life uh, gives us, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get. Everything is different. You know, one has nuts, one has caramel, one has dark chocolate, one has milk chocolate. You know, it's all a variety. And with that variety makes a box of chocolates. And without the variety, it's just chocolates. And, you know, every piece you get, some make you happy and some you say, oh, I wish I didn't pick that one. You know, you could say that goes through life. You know, it's a metaphor for life. But, you know, we live with some very sick people in this world. And they want to manipulate and control people and you. They want to control you. And they want to direct you in a way that benefits them. You know, that's why you see gambling apps on, I don't want to say the names of the apps, but you see gambling apps on TV, uh, sports apps, casino apps, and they're trying to direct you to give them your money. You know, they promise you that you can win and you can't. And they might show you a winner just to get all the other people that want to follow in that person's shoes and be the next winner. But you're going to lose, you know. And if you win, God bless you. But the majority of you are going to lose, you know. And the apps win when you lose, you know. So, and that's just a metaphor again because your boss is trying to get you to do what he wants you to do for the lowest amount of money. Uh, your wife wants you to do what she wants you to do for the least amount of resistance. And your kids, you want your kids to do what you want to do, want them to do, and again, least resistance. Um, it's the metaphor of life, you know. And on a normal basis with normal people and a normal back and forth, that would be okay. That's life. That would be perfect. It's when you throw in these narcissists and psychopaths and toxic people into the mix that makes it uh, very dangerous for you and your family. You know, if you work for a narcissist, you're in a very bad position. Look at the position the country is in from the narcissist in chief. You know, we all our allies hate us now. They don't trust us, and I don't blame them. You know, but and the point is, you shouldn't. You know, we're taught in this country to be a leader. Leaders are revered, and And I would say that's wrong. You should strive to be brave. God loves and respects brave people. Uh, you know, the schools, the fire departments, the post offices, the museums, the libraries are all named after brave people. And so that is what is mostly revered. And it's hard to be brave. It's hard to, and a lot of the brave people are the ones that go the opposite way from the herd. You know, the herd runs out of the burning building. The brave person runs into the burning building. And that's the difference, you know. But it's it's hard to say because you're taught not to be brave. You're taught. I mean, when I went to school, they had us hide under our desk. They had us hide in the hallway with our hands over our head in a like a fetal position, you know, and that was not teaching us to be brave, you know, and that was the point. They didn't want us to be brave. Brave people are hard to control. Brave people are hard to manipulate, you know, and brave people have a mind of their own, and that's something the school districts want to kill. If you have any of those traits, they want to destroy that in you. You know, they don't want you to graduate with those kind of traits because that's not what society wants. Society wants robots, obedient, obey, don't think for yourself. We told you it's A and it's forever going to be A until we tell you different, you know, and that's the society we live in. And it's not just here, it's in all different countries, all the countries, because that's how they are a country, because they have the people that follow and line up behind their flag, you know, and that's why the flag is revered, because the flag is more important than the people behind it. You know, as long as the flag stays there, it doesn't matter about the people. So in the individual world, they don't care about the individual; they care about the collective. And as an individual, you shouldn't care about a flag, and you shouldn't care about the collective. You should try to better your life, better yourself. You know, the best way to beat a narcissist is to change yourself. You're never going to change them. You have to change yourself and how you react to their craziness, you know. And the one thing a narcissist never wants to be called is crazy. No matter what you do, a narcissist never wants to be called crazy because that doesn't help his high and mighty ego. You know, it's a negative to that, and it's a big negative. And those kind of things, those kind of labels usually spread. So everybody finds out he's crazy. And it just kills the narrative of the narcissist wanting to be the number one person in the room. And it just doesn't work for them. So the point is to go down the road on your own and change yourself, change your perspective, change the way you look at life, and that's what these videos do. They help change the way you look at life. And I'm not trying to make you a narcissist hunter or go after narcissists. No, because that's not changing you. That's still you trying to change them when you go after them. You have to change you. When you want to change you, you don't care about them. They could be in the room with you and you wouldn't even know. You know, you just don't care. They can say what they want and it just bounces off of you. That's real change. That's real growth. Not carrying a sword or a gun so you can get the next one, because then you're the narcissist you're trying to beat, and you don't want that. So, and a narcissist isn't brave. They're not brave at all. There's nothing about them that's brave, and they run from every fight. They get somebody else to fight the fight for them without them being involved. They'll start a whole room, a war in a room, and have the whole room fighting, and sit back and say, "I did that." To themselves. They won't say it to anybody else, but they'll say it to themselves. I caused this whole fight, and nobody will blame the narcissist. So they're very good at manipulating people like that and creating those circumstances. So, you know, uh, but I think the walk is a great metaphor for learning from your past and bringing your past into the future and not despising it and not regretting it, whatever it is. If uh, as long as you're alive, you can change, uh, unless you're a narcissist. Uh, but even alcoholics, a lot of them quit. A lot of them stop drinking for the rest of their lives. And it's possible. It's not like it's hopeless. It might seem hopeless, especially in the beginning, but it gets better over time. And that's the road that's the AB I want to send you down to see, because you might be an alcoholic. Of course, you may not be. But if you are, then your AB is different than someone who's not an alcoholic. Their AB is something totally different. So, and not one is better than the other. They're just different.